Hello, folks. I'm Lieutenant Sarge, and with me is fucking James Wallace.
What's up, guys?
We're going to talk about Jurassic World, and this is going to be a debate to end all debates. We're going to decide whether or not Jurassic Park 4, Jurassic Park World, or Jurassic World, whatever you want to call it, we're going to decide whether it completely rocks, is a pretty decent movie, or
Or if it sucked a big, gigantic Tyrannosaurus Rex penis that it did.
so this is the moment of truth. I am going to defend Jurassic World because I think it was a great movie.
Wow, you are using those words. You use the word "great" as if it's candy that you're throwing out to the children.
All right. So, like a true gentleman, I will let my weak opponent start off first. So,
Okay,
James,
why don't we do this by categories? That way we don't veer off topic too much.
okay, first category. Tell me, what was your first impressions of Jurassic World?
That they love to use CGI, and other than that, they like to really give awkward dialogues, which
Oh, hang on.
makes
Before we go too further, spoiler alert. There's no holding back spoilers. I don't give a fuck. So,
Oh no, definitely not. I'm not going to retain anything just in case somebody's little 10-year-old wants to go watch the movie.
yeah. So, yeah, fuck kids. All right. If you don't like spoilers, don't watch this. Don't watch this recording stream. Okay. You were saying CGI over reliance. Go.
CGI, it just basically just seems like at one point in time that it's just all CGI, and I can just only imagine how many actors sat there looking retarded out in the middle of the thing, just playing with nothing, basically the whole time, looking at nothing. I can only like. I just can't imagine what those people are going through, how much they got paid to look totally retarded. And also, just the awkward ass dialogue that didn't even add up. It was just like made up words. It just seemed like people just threw words together and made up a sentence. You know I love you guys, right? Yes, Mom. Brush your teeth. What? What the fuck? It makes no sense. And then they had to constantly do one. I like to say 25 seconds segment on how their parents are getting a divorce, which you kind of have an idea when the dad sits there and says, "Well, I didn't imagine our last meal together being like this."
Yeah, it was like foreboding, but I was like, I didn't really understand what that was referring to. And then they mentioned the divorce. I was like, oh, okay, got it. Last meal.
I just thought it was a joke saying, "Oh, they're dead."
Yeah, that's what I figured it was. I was kind of thinking like maybe he's just making a joke that they're most likely to die, but he's like, just kind of like being like in poor taste. But no, it turns out they're talking about a divorce, which I totally thought was like a very awkward, like it was one of those like dialogue things that it's trying to set up exposition for plot lines, but I will say
it's a plot line that was visited for 1 minute and was never brought to again.
I will say, so my impressions of the movie is I liked it, but going throughout most of the movie, there was a lot of moments where I was just like, oh my gosh, this is very cringeworthy, right? And
Yes.
and I saw it before you did, and unlike you, I saw it in the actual theater, which is where I think you're supposed to see it. You saw it on a pirated copy version, so the quality difference is
I
there.
will not indulge that with an answer, but I will say yes.
Well, I don't think there's anything illegal about looking at it with a copy pirated version, so long as you're not, redistributing it. But whatever.
Yeah, obviously.
I mean, that's not saying that you actually did see it that way, but let's just say that you did, and we're going to go with that.
Let's just say that I actually did on my phone, but that's neither here.
Right. But that's neither here or there. The point is that I think I got the full experience the way it was supposed to, and even then there was a lot of
the surround sound. I think that's basically all you pretty much got over the surround sound in one small detail.
Well, hold on, hang on. When you go and you watch anything on like a TV or a movie with regular quality, it still doesn't look nearly as good as in the big screen, right? Now, if you go and you watch something on a shitty captured version of it, a pirated copy, it looks even worse because it's got the glared effects. A lot of times you hear background noise. The quality of the sound isn't that great. It sounds kind of slightly distorted.
I mean, you could argue this. I'll send you the link and you can watch it and you can tell me how bad it is. Because honestly, I thought for it being a pirated film, it was not that bad. It was actually pretty
I'll have to take that into consideration. But my point being is, like, in my opinion, I think I got the full experience of what you're supposed to. So that might hang on. That might have colored your perspective to be a little bit different than mine, was the point that I was going to get at. Whereas, like, I think I might have been more enthusiastic and forgiving of the movie because I didn't see it on a shitty pirated version. Like, when I watched the very first Resident Evil movie, I thought that was complete dog shit. But I also watched it on the pirated version that had a lot of it didn't have all the finished editings.
Yeah.
They actually, if I recall correctly, the version that we watched, they didn't have the complete CGI finished. They had like some shots where you could see the microphone sticking out from the ceiling, which you don't see in the finished version of the movie.
I thought that was also in that terrible Wolverine pirated one also.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. Like, when I think you take a bit of a gamble with the pirated copies, you would have to watch the completed version and then watch that version that you watched, or I could watch it and see.
No, just watch it. Just watch what I watched, and you sit there and be like, "Wow, that was nowhere near how experienced I got in the movie theaters." Because honestly, if it's the way I think it was, and I went to the movie theaters and I paid $10 for it, and I watched it, I wouldn't be as not hostile as I am now. I probably would have been even more pissed off to the fact that I wasted $10 to go watch that movie.
Okay, so you're like really super pissed that you watched this movie.
Dude, I'm not pissed right now because I watched it for free. I just thought it was a really terrible movie. Like right now, I'm just like, I thought it was hilarious. I was like, wow, I feel like in some sense it did waste my time a little bit, but in another sense it was like, hey, dinosaurs, cool. So.
Now, I'm curious. Well, all right. Let me go and finish my thing. From my point of view, there was three things that I noticed wrong with the movie the entire way. One, the dialogue is pretty terrible, and I will concede you that, because this is actually what I told you. I told you in advance my thoughts on the movie, that I liked it, but there's three things wrong with it. The dialogue, number one. Number two, the characters are all pretty shite. I mean, you have really only, like, in my opinion, two characters or three characters that get any sort of development, and that would be Bryce Dallas Howard and the two kids. Chris Pratt really doesn't get any character development in the movie. He kind of just stays the same character from beginning to end. And then the third problem with the movie, in my opinion, was that there felt like there was three plots, and that, like, they were trying to do, but they didn't really know how to do them effectively, or they tended to have them in a dysfunction. And that would be that they wanted to make a movie about the actual, what it would be like if Jurassic World was real. Then they wanted to make a movie about a hybrid monster dinosaur, and then they wanted to make a movie about militarizing dinosaurs as weapons. So, and I think that last one, before you'd seen the movie, was what made you kind of facepalm a little bit.
Most definitely. And then when I saw it in action, the way you're saying it and the way that they're actually being used in that situation, I was like, that's okay, I guess, because obviously Chris Pratt has trained them to track things down before. Oh wait, no. Oh wait, let's see what Chris Pratt's actual training of these dinosaurs were. Hey, you shit! Pay attention. Look at me wave my hands around, and then I'm gonna throw rats at you. So basically, I have not even seen them come close to doing any forms of training with these raptors to even indulge that they're a reliable source or a reliable asset.
They mentioned that several times in the movie. Like, it's sort of like a debate ongoing with the movie. So that's why I'm more forgiving of it. Is the fact that the guys who handle the raptors regularly, they're like, look, they're not only are they like animals, so they got like that sympathy card going for them, but they're also like, they're completely unpredictable. Like, the only reason that I have any sort of quote unquote control over them is because it's more of like a relationship. Like, I just sit there and they kind of respect me as being sort of like one of the pack, but I'm still sort of an outsider.
Of
And then you
course, yes.
have
Being one of the
Vincent.
packs is yelling and waving their hands
Well,
randomly.
hold on,
Yeah,
hang
I
on,
guess that's one of the pack.
hang on a sec. Vincent, whatever, I can't pronounce his last name. He plays like the evil engine guy. He wants to militarize the animals, and he doesn't understand them at all. And you can, it's in the story you're getting hints that he's basically trying to push this, regardless of whether or not there's any sort of actual preparation for it. So,
Yeah, I saw that. Well, that's an obvious one because he was just, you might, like you said, you might as well have thrown an evil mustache on the man and twirled it a little bit and gave him a cane. But with the character though, like I know there are some people like that in the world, right? But even if you're in that position, you're in that position of power, or whatever power the fuck he was in, for a reason. You're somewhat intelligent. You're not a complete moron. And that's that's basically what he was. He was a complete moron. It's like, I want dinosaurs now. And they're like, and even in the demonstration, all Chris Pratt literally did was, hey, look at me, guys. Look at me.
hey.
Oh, look, they're looking at him. It's like, you know what? No, he's like, hey, you shit. Look at me waving my hands around. Look at me, I'm Chris Pratt. I'm freaking Star-Lord. And they're like, oh, Star-Lord. Look at Star-Lord. And freaking that guy's like, yes, they're ready. Nothing more than that. They're ready. And I'm just like, no. Like, even if he was the most impatient man in the world in his position of power for some reason, like if it was like a person that never did anything ever before in his life, or even had a genuine human thought, he would sit there and see that and be like, no, they're obviously nowhere near being ready. That's a terrible idea.
So
even for him to say.
I want to continue to beat up on this character because as much as I need to defend this movie from your wrath, there is problems with it that I have. So I will indulge on this before swinging back to defense mode.
Can I just please say one more thing?
Go for it.
So we've agreed, right? Terrible dialogue, terrible character building, and a terrible plot. What else is there to a movie that you can possibly name that can redeem anything?
Is the action sequences good? Is the atmosphere good? Are the visuals good?
My God.
Does it have moments that I really fucking love?
So you basically just if we're doing this objectively, you just basically gave kudos to all the Transformer movies.
I actually like the first one.
Alright, other than the first one, you gave kudos to Age of Extinction.
No, because the second movie didn't have anything I liked in it. The second movie was horrible. I hated it.
It didn't have action, it didn't have fight scenes.
No, it had fight scenes that you couldn't watch. Like, you couldn't see anything that was going on. With this movie, you can clearly see what's going on.
No, you cannot!
Because you're watching a pirated version, you stupid fuck!
Oh, bullshit.
You said you didn't... Okay, hang on. I'm going to prove you wrong on this, because... At the end of the movie, during a climactic fight scene between the monster and the raptor, you told me specifically that you couldn't even tell what the raptor got thrown into when it got burst on fire. And I had to specifically tell you, it was like a little bar grill thing that they cook food on. And then you started laughing, and I was just like, yeah, it's kind of stupid. But you couldn't even see that because you can't watch half of the movie because it's all in the black screen that's with a big old glare on it. So don't tell me that you can't see it on the version you can.
That I can't see, you're going to sit there and just completely, that's it, write it off. One detail. If it was a grill or a furnace.
Could you see what was going on throughout the rest of the movie?
Yes.
So you could see what was going on in the movie.
See, now you're just trying to play on my words. No, I saw the movie just fine, but while the action scenes are happening, right? When those guys with hey, look at me, I got this, we got net guns, we're gonna go up against Tyrannosaurus Raptor. Fucking no, like when shit hit the fan, or hell, the Raptors. Okay, you're gonna tell me when the Raptors started attacking the people that it wasn't just like a Blair Witch Project kind of thing.
Only when it was looking through the camera modes.
Yeah, you had like a rapper jump on one, and then it showed them getting dragged away. Rapper jump on another one, like, oh my God.
But like when you're not looking through the camera modes, then you can see it just fine. It looks just like how the Raptors were killing people in the Lost World.
Oh my goodness.
That's what I'm saying. You'd have to watch in the movie theater. You can't
See,
watch a
every
pirated
time when I
version.
sit there,
You're
that's not even fair. That's not even fair. You're gonna sit there every time when I sit there. I'm like, no, you couldn't see that well.
no.
Well, you
Well,
didn't watch
hang
it in
on,
theaters because
hang
you don't
on.
know what you're talking about.
Because if you're watching a version that has a very poor quality,
you haven't
visually
even seen
speaking,
it, so you can't even deem that.
Well, fucking link it to me, and we'll continue to argue about this while I'm watching it.
Fantastic shit.
So my point being is that the dialogue kind of sucks, right? Now the second movie I like, even though the dialogue kind of sucks in that. I don't think the dialogue sucks nearly as bad in the second movie as Jurassic World, but it's still like it's got some pretty cheesy lines in there. This movie, the dialogue, it only really sucks as far as some of the one-liners. I wouldn't say it's completely bad overall. Like when they're having discussions about the park and the operations and how it works, like it's pretty standard. It's just whenever like Chris Pratt needs to get a one-liner in, or whenever the villain of the movie shows up, then the dialogue really goes like, just rock bottom.
Look, guys. Look, guys. People just don't care about an animal that's been extinct for 65 billion years anymore. Look, obviously we need something different. We need a dinosaur that has more teeth because obviously that brings more people in.
So this is something that I was talking about with the movie that I actually liked. Is it had sort of like a meta level social commentary, I guess you could say, on how people view these sort of movies. Where it's like the first movie was a big wow factor, and they have characters that sort of represent that in the movie. You have the young kid who's like excited to see dinosaurs, and then you have his older brother as a teenager who's sort of like the shitty teenager audience that go and watch movies nowadays that don't really give a fuck about movies at all. They just kind of go there and then they're texting their friends, they're getting on Facebook on their phones, and they're barely even paying attention to the movie overall. And that's what you see him do throughout the movie. He's supposed to be representing those shithead teenagers that we all hate. Because anybody from the ages of 14 up to 19, they all suck and should kill themselves. And then you have, and then you have, the nerdy guy who's kind of in the calm.
Wearing the Jurassic Park T-shirt.
Yeah, wearing the Jurassic Park T-shirt. You have him. You have the Indian John Hammond guy, and you have Chris Pratt. They're all sort of like the old fans of Jurassic Park. They're like the ones who are like, man, it was just cool when it was just dinosaurs. Why can't we just like have that? You know what I mean? They're what you would call like the true fans, right? And then so then you have the corporate guys. They're trying to appeal to the shithead teenagers that we all want to kill themselves. So the corporate guys are sitting there saying, hey, we need to have these dinosaurs look really freaking amazing. So the teenagers that are on their cell phones that we all want to die horribly, we can appeal to them and get their money. You know what I mean? And that's how, in my opinion, the movie makers sort of kind of see things. So it's kind of like a social commentary.
Was that something you've heard them say, or is that just something you sit there and you picked up metaphorically?
I think it was more me picking up metaphorically, but I have seen other people draw those conclusions as well. So
just because, that's just like you're pretty much looking at a canvas with a bunch of paint splatter on it, and then look at like, you know what I mean, like.
Hang on.
I can see what you're. No, I can see what you're talking about, right? Yeah, I can see what you're talking about with that. Like, I did catch that vibe, and I was like, okay, that's kind of funny. And like, even hear the nerdy guy make a couple of references, and you're like, oh, that's hilarious. But overall, when everyone starts picking up shit metaphorically, that's just a bunch of guys, like I said, staring at a canvas with a bunch of paint splattered on it. Like, it must mean this. It must mean this. And then you come to realize that the artist is a batshit crazy fucking chimpanzee who's literally throwing paint.
So there's a difference between picking stuff up that's like completely like out of nowhere, like what you're talking about with the shit canvas, and them actually putting lines of dialogue which seem to indicate a particular type of theme going on, right? Much how in the first movie it's like, hey, we shouldn't play with nature. Like that's, you can't.
Shouldn't play God.
Yeah, you shouldn't play God with stuff you don't fully understand or control. Before you even knew what you had, you packaged it and you started to sell it, and now you want to go and ship it off to the rest of the world. This movie, it has a similar, kind of metaphor going on. It's that the wow factor for people, their attention will start to wane, so they always try and up the ante with the wow factor with something else. In the same way that the movie Cabin in the Woods was a bit of a social commentary on how people they want and expect to have certain things in a horror movie, and when they don't get it, they throw hissy fits. Which is why at the end of the movie of Cabin in the Woods, you see this giant hand, which is supposed to be a ancient monster creature in the earth or whatever, but in a metaphorical sense, it's representing the standard audience of horror movies. You know, it throws a giant tantrum when it doesn't get the entire horror experience that it wants, which is a very standard cut and dry slasher movie experience. That's what that's a social commentary on how horror movies have been, and this movie was sort of a social commentary on just the general audiences of these type of movies.
Okay.
Now it's there. I mean, it's almost so there that it's blatantly in your face the entire fucking time. But it's just enough of a subdued amount of it that people like yourself don't pick up. Did I just insult you? I'm sorry.
People like myself. Okay, look. I honestly, I'm not even gonna rebuttal, but I can see what you're saying to that. Like, there's some little side metaphors to everything that, like, there's a pitch to every movie. There's usually a pitch, right? There's usually like the more you know kind of message that they're sending. Somewhat, right? Or somewhat of a joke, as this one was. This one was more kind of like a joke more than anything. And with me and you, I'm sure, I guess you can just look at it from just a broad point of view. Well, I mean, that's just, I guess it kind of goes like when you look at sequels and any means that's like when you look at sequels, they always feel like they have to up the ante. They have to do something completely different than the first one or just make it better, right? I don't see this movie, like, I'm not even saying they up the ante or anything like that. I saw like they basically just sat there and said, "You want to see a bunch of dinosaurs eat themselves?" And we said, "Sure, let's go for it." And then after that, they're like, "Okay, now we're just gonna throw in the worst dialogue." And like, because that to me, I don't know where I'm getting at right now.
When I say terrible dialogue,
the dialogue was terrible.
We should give examples here. I want to give examples for what I mean by terrible dialogue. When you first see Vincent D'Onofrio, or whatever his name is, the character is Hoskins. He's like the, I guess, security guard or whatever of Engine. He kind of comes up and immediately he starts saying like, "Hey, you got control of the Raptors. So aren't you ready to start getting these guys ready for the military?" And then like there's this little stupid scene between him and Chris Pratt where he's just like, that like secretly you think these guys are just all about having the dinosaurs be there for the theme park? No, they want to make them weapons. What do you think that they're doing behind the scenes? And it's like, okay, come on, this is like way too cartoonish, way too like forced to him to be the villain. Other stuff would be like Chris Pratt occasionally when he says like the lines that you see in the movie trailer. He goes and he says stuff like, "She's killing for sport" or whatever. In the movie trailer, it works. When he actually says it in the movie, it kind of sucks. So the problem with the dialogue sucking is it's just aspects like that. You have sort of these stupid expositions or like sort of forced characterizations of the guys trying to basically force the plot into that particular direction. That's what I mean that the dialogue's shit. Now, it is absolutely not as bad as Jurassic Park 3, which has some of the worst dialogue out of any movie ever. And it is still a league above Transformers films.
That's a good one.
It is way better than the Transformers films. It's just that in comparison to Jurassic Park, which was very clever and well written, this movie is bad. In comparison to Jurassic Park, it gets a C rating. But it's not a fucking failure like Transformers.
If you have not watched any of the Jurassic Parks and you saw this, I would still think it was a terrible movie, and like and then they would need like 3 in a row movies like Jurassic Park, the first one, to help it rebuild its glory. Like you said, like the one-liners and like the villain and Chris Pratt and stuff like that. The characters, the talk between the brothers were ridiculous. The freaking the ant was ridiculous. The explanation of why they needed the explanation why they created the whatever the hell I said Spinosaurus because I'm PTSD from Jurassic Park 3, but the what was it called, the Albertosaurus or some shit like that, like something like
the
whatever.
Adominus Rex.
The Adominus Rex.
Which is funny because they chose that name in the movie because it would be easier to pronounce, but yet Jimmy can't pronounce it.
Well, it was easier for children. I'm a full-grown adult, so that's totally different. Question mark.
Question mark, indeed.
And this explanation. So like when the dialogue's there, yeah, they might not necessarily be saying the worst cringeworthy words in the world, but like their explanation for things, their ideas. All right, well, say for example, you didn't think it was totally ridiculous when the Indian guy's flying the helicopter, almost hits a fucking tree, and the girl freaks out. You need to pull up. Oh my god! And then the next words that come out of his mouth says, "You need to go to the beach more often." You're gonna Jesus Christ, dude, and that's basically like the whole movie. I feel like only people that actually made sense when they talked was the little kid who had to overly exaggerate his character of being so excited around dinosaurs he had to name every fact about every dinosaur he could possibly think of off the top of his head. Either that or annoying the shit out of his brother. Oh wow. Typical whatever, right? It's just, but that was like the only character that talked that sat there. I was like, okay, well at least he has a little bit of facts backing what he's saying. It's like, oh wow, he's teaching us about dinosaurs. Speaking, do you know that the first was like this and you're like this and it was like, oh my god, and it was like this and like this, and you're sitting there like, okay.
I'm totally lost on what you're referencing.
You don't know what you're talking about when they're trying to like, get in that little hamster ball bullshit, right? The hamster ball that somehow they're able to drive, and he's sitting there and he just keeps trying to talk about dinosaurs, and and his older brother's checking out some girls, right? So hey, what up, girls? Yeah. And he's all sitting there, keeps trying to talk, and he's all like, "Are you gonna stare at those girls all day?" And they're like, "Ha ha ha ha!" Giggle. Oh look, there's the little annoying brother / overexcited kid at a Jurassic Park theme park. Also knows everything about dinosaurs.
See that actually didn't bother me too much because I could totally see like a younger brother or a younger child like acting like that. The part that bothered me was when they're on the freaking train and he's like, "Mom and Dad are gonna get a divorce. This is why I'm so sad." And I'm just like, oh my god, this does not need to be in this movie. Like you totally could have gone the entire, because it's never brought up again either. It's
that's just the awesome character building that they do.
Yeah, it's like that. You could totally have just gone with like teenager doesn't give a fuck about dinosaurs, is only here because his brother wants him to be here, or is only there to babysit his younger brother, more or less. Younger brother wants to see dinosaurs and wants his older brother's attention. It's a totally legit, normal like brother dynamic that you could have run with. Then they throw in like our parents are getting a divorce, which I swear to God I've seen that like in so many fucking movies. It's like it feels like the cheap like it feels like something like my husband hits me, that's why we should get it, like I need to have like a new guy to go with. You know what I mean? It's just so something cheap.
My husband hits me. That's why I'm so really scared of all the zombies that are around me right now.
Yeah. You know, like my father died when I was younger. That's why I'm always like a moody, depressed faggot. You know what I mean? Like it's one of those things where it's like you have this totally thrown in, like it really doesn't add anything to the story, and it dragged the movie down in that particular aspect of the movie for me. And that's what I'm saying. There's parts where the dialogue is just terrible. It sucks it down, and you're just like please move on. And then like they'll start showing the I-Rex kill people, and I'm like, yay, people are dying. Like when people are getting torn apart, like I'm like, this is the movie I want to watch. This is what I want to see from Jurassic Park. Thank you. I'm here to watch people get brutally fucking murdered. I'm not here to watch two stupid kids talk about their parents getting divorced. This is not Seventh Heaven. This is Jurassic World.
my goodness. You know what? I felt like when the teenager was telling him just to stop it, stop crying, be a man. Basically, it's just like I just sit there. That's how I just pretty much tell that little plot, that little character development they're trying to do. Just stop, shut up, don't cry, be a man. And then it's like, you're right. I'm never gonna talk about stupid shit ever again in a dinosaur movie. And
well,
God,
like I said, they talk about the parents' divorce in the middle of a train, and then they never bring it up again. The only thing that you could say it's sort of brought up is the fact that kid's like moody the whole freaking time. Up until they start getting chased by the dinosaurs. And it's like, you could have had him easily be just as moody by the fact that he's stuck with his older brother who hates being with him. You didn't have to have you could have literally taken...
That's like teenager brother. That's a very basic, solid foundation.
Yeah.
Teenager doesn't like being with their kid, with their kid sibling, because most teenagers usually don't, because they're usually annoying and, like, not as... I use quotes around this, mature as the teenagers are, and that would have been fine. That was the plot of the movie, right?
And then he's
you
like,
even see this is. I guess this is the one thing I'll give a compliment to. You're telling me about when the kid's on the cell phone and stuff like that, up until the Crocosaurus comes up and bites the shark in half, and then
the Crocosaurus.
I call him Crocosaurus, and then you sit there. And you're like, oh, wow, he actually looks interested. Like, you see him smiling. You see him kind of start enjoying it a little bit. Like, I was like, okay, you know what? Like, that's where I kind of sit there. It's like, that's how, when you're sitting there about metaphorical stuff, it's like, that's how you usually see a lot of those, like, seniors, because they don't know it. They don't know any more than what they see on their cell phones, what they see on Facebook, right? They're
right.
Like, and they're bored. And then when you actually see it live and see something cool like that live,
suddenly they're like,
they
like, wow.
Enjoy it.
Yeah.
Right?
But as soon as...
And that was like the one cool thing I gave this thing, because it's like that's pretty much a lot of what they do, until they actually see how cool something really is, like appreciate it. It's kind of cool. But I do have arguments about the Crocosaurus.
Okay, what's wrong with the Crocosaurus?
Yeah, go ahead.
I like the Mosasaurus. It only shows up a few times, but there are 3 distinct scenes in it. And I guess we could go them in order. The first one is when you see it eat the shark. And it's just kind of like this sort of magical, like kind of SeaWorld-ish sort of vibe to it. Which is where the kid gets splashed with the water and he's like on a cell phone. Then the next time you see it is when the pterodactyls are attacking everybody. And what I call the most brutal death in the entire Jurassic Park franchise. Not so much in the gore factor, but in just the sheer, like, horrible way this lady dies.
Like, you knew it was coming. It was like a train wreck. And it's like, the whole time she's, like, getting drowned. And it's just, like, repeatedly pick back up, slams back in the water. Pick back up, hacks a little bit, slams back in the water. Pick back up, all of a sudden out of nowhere. Crocosaurus! Blah!
Yeah.
Plomp.
Like, you see the lady get snagged, and you're like, oh, no, she's dead. No, wait, oh. The pterodactyls have grabbed her from she gets tossed from one pterodactyl to another, and then like they go and they drop her from like 50 feet into the water. So that's got to break like at least an ankle or something, give you like major freaking slap in the face.
It would hurt. We'll just say it would hurt.
It would hurt like a major bitch. And then like as soon as like she's like dropped in the water, before she's had a time to react, pterodactyl swoops down and picks her in its fucking mouth, and it starts carrying her in her mouth like she's a fish. And then it like carries her for a little bit and then drops her again in the water. And it starts just kind of like treating her like she's a tea bag, just like constantly just dipping her over and over. And then after like a minute of that, then the Crocosaurus comes in and eats both of them. And I'm just thinking like, holy shit, she just got swallowed whole. So she's still probably alive inside its throat. And she's going to be slowly digested or crushed to death for a few minutes. That's like
That's like a pretty terrible way to die.
That is like the worst way to die in any of the Jurassic Park films. I can't think of like a worse way to die.
Now, let me. You can always spin humor on this. Now, as you're saying, wouldn't it be funny while that whole scene's happening to play the Harlem Globetrotters music as the pterodactyls are passing her around up until the slam dunk?
Oh my god.
And she's like, oh my god, and just dribbling her around and shit, right, like a basketball. I found that kind of amusing. That's like the first thing when I saw that scene that popped in my head. I was like, oh, Harlem Globetrotters. And then the slam dunk with the big gator.
So then the third time you see Crocosaurus. Should we go ahead and just talk about it?
He's Crocosaurus. Yo, spoil away, dude. What's this
Okay, because I was going to lead into it. The final fight of the movie, the Crocosaurus gets a chance to eat the main evil monster dinosaur, the I-Rex. So I guess we should just go ahead and say it. There's a fight between the T-Rex and the Raptor and the I-Rex, and in the ensuing fight, it's like the dinosaurs are kind of working together, tag teaming the freaking I-Rex, and they eventually shove it into the pool. And then, like, when it's by the pool, then the Crocosaurus comes in and just snags them and pulls them into the water.
Now, see, and that was where I sat there and had my question, right?
Well, I love the way you described it earlier. You're kind of like, they're like, hey, bro, I'm passing you over to this guy.
So like, yo, dog, I got you back, dog. Oh man, I got you back, homie. Whoa, hey, let's get Big Leroy in here. Big Leroy, what up? And then he goes and grabs him and just brings him into the water. And then he's just like, yeah, and then like he gives fist bumps to the freaking Velociraptor and they walk away. So, yeah, that's basically what I thought about that scene. I thought it was a pretty cool scene. It was a pretty cool scene. I'm not gonna lie. That's it. That action sequence scene when they all start teaming up on him, it was like a dun dun, and then it's like fighting one off, and then he has to worry about the other one, fighting the other one off.
And you know what? That scene. Here's how I know that scene was made for me. I hate Jurassic Park 3, and I know that the movie theater guys who are making the movie, they know that people hate Jurassic Park 3 because specifically, what happens at the end of the movie? Who's the big hero to come in and save the day? It's the T-Rex, right? And the Raptor. Yeah. And who are they fighting? They're fighting the new super awesome dinosaur that's supposed to be bigger and badder than the T-Rex. Now, in Jurassic Park 3, what happened in that movie? You had the big, meaner and badder and bigger dinosaur that's meaner and bigger than the T-Rex. And it kills the T-Rex in like 30 seconds. And everybody was like, this is fucking ridiculous. This scene sucks. Fuck this movie. And I thought the same thing. Fuck that movie. And then this movie comes along, and right at the beginning of the fight, you see there's a Spinosaurus skeleton in the middle of the fucking...
And he just plows right through it.
The T-Rex just comes in, and it's just like, bitch, I own this franchise, and just runs right through the Spinosaurus skeleton to announce its presence that it's ready for a fight. That's how you know that the filmmakers knew who they were playing to. They knew what the audience hated, and they knew what they wanted to see.
Oh god, that was a pretty that one. Like I said, dude, they had like a little bit of those like iconic moments that sat there and like appeased to some of the people. But be that as it may, I still can't say it makes up for the movie.
Okay, so then you have the pterodactyl scene. What did you think of that? The Tyrannosaurus killing everybody.
Did you say the Tyrannosaurus?
The pterodactyls or pteranodons or whatever they're called.
That scene, it was pretty. That one was kind of like a kind of dark scene. If it was rated R and that was actually gory, it might even been a lot more cringeworthy, like seeing people's limbs getting bitten off and stuff like that. The only thing I can sit there and that made me just laugh my ass off and just kind of not completely disrespect the scene, but at the same time it kind of did, was when Chris Pratt's getting attacked by a Tyrannosaurus pterodactyl, and he's sitting there and he's fighting it off, and all of a sudden the girl hits it off, pulls out her BB gun and shoots it twice, or tranquilizer, I'm sorry, and then he sits there and he looks at her, and even though there's still the threat of all the other pterodactyls around him, he's like, you know what, this is the perfect scene to land a 30-second smooch. This is the perfect scene. This here and now, this is exactly the scene to push us into a relationship. I looked into that woman's eyes after when I'm being surrounded and almost killed. I knew, yes, I need to kiss this woman now. And you know what? No, and the kids don't sit there. They're not reacting either. They're like, oh, they're like, that's totally, or like the typical kid stuff. That's gross, and teenagers like whatever. I'm gonna look at my phone, and and that's like I'm sitting there, I'm just start laughing my ass off because in real life, but not even real life, in any kind of like when a freaking horrific thing's happening, who the hell would take the time? At least like you know what I mean? It's like that's when I sat there. I was like, okay, this is ridiculous. And then up to the British girl, I think that's like one of my favorite movies in the scene was when the British girl is getting globetrotted up to the Crocosaurus. And so, therefore, the pterodactyl scene, I give a positive B review.
Here's the one thing that I actually the kiss part I thought was ridiculous, but it didn't bother me because I've seen it in so many movies. If you look at it as like, is it realistic? No, but like I've seen worse. Like the worst I've ever seen happen in the movie was Pirates of the Caribbean 3, where they get married during a sword fight on two ships that are fighting, and like half the people they're fighting are like zombie monsters, and then they're like romantically kissing in slow motion with like explosions in a whirlpool going on around them. So I guess when I've seen something that stupid.
When you're comparing it to the worst, it's not that bad.
Yeah, see, that's what I'm saying. Like the worst this movie has to offer is still like C- range, and the best it has to offer is like either A- or B+ range. So it's like I give this movie like like either
if you're gonna average it out, you're gonna give it a C+ review.
A C+ or a B-. It'd be like around there for me. And I think I was really a lot more enthusiastic when I first came out of it because the movie. It has a lot not working against it in the beginning, but it gets better and better progressively until the very end, where it's just like it's like the Godzilla movie where you have Godzilla versus the two monsters, and you see the final showdown, and then there's just like one awesome Godzilla moment after another. The T-Rex just completely coming in there and just biting the shit out of the I-Rex, and the I-Rex biting the shit out of it. And the T-Rex, like, even though it's getting really fucked up, it just doesn't go down. You know what I mean? It's like, no, I'm not going to go down like the fucking Jurassic Park 3 people want me to. I'm going to get the fuck back up.
I like how they try to make it seem like he's dead for a second. Like, you see him on the ground, and you see he's about to deliver the killing blow, and then the Velociraptor's like, what up, bitches? Just on his face. You know what I mean? It's like, I mean, it was like they had everything working against it. Like, yes, this one might be more. I was just like, okay, that's interesting.
I will say, as much as I love that scene, it really felt like total fan fiction. Like it felt like something that like a middle schooler or like a sixth grader would write as like, this would be the best fight scene ever. When the mutated dinosaur that has like all of these mutations in it fights the T-Rex, and as the T-Rex starts to lose, Chris Pratt comes out with his sniper rifle, starts shooting it, and then the Velociraptor, it starts jumping from the T-Rex onto the I-Rex, and it keeps going back and forth, and they slowly bring it towards the pool, and then the Crocosaurus eats it.
And then the director sat there and said, "All right, son, that'll be enough. You heard the kid. Let's do this shit.
We got to give them what the kids want."
Give them what the kids want. And and before I got on this video, I was on Facebook, and I saw somebody who I went to high school with said their kid loved the movie. He's a little kid, right? So I sat there, and again, it makes me sit there and be like, can I truly sit here and totally hate on this, even though this is more than likely meant for children more than adults, in some sense? Because obviously you can tell because most of the gore factors get blocked out. And it's like, okay, yeah, that's that. I mean, I still think it's somewhat for adults, but it's like if you really look at a lot of the kids movies that you see a lot of, it's usually really bad dialogue, and it's just like like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie, which you haven't watched, which you should thank your lucky stars. And hey dude, we're getting some failures. I need you guys to help me check ahead. All right, cool. All right, well, I gotta go, and I'll be back in a little bit.
Okay.